Captain He-jin Kim stood at the wide window of the Stellar Dawn's bridge, watching the stars streak by. Even after 15 years of space travel, the sight still filled her with wonder. The massive passenger starship hummed softly around her, carrying 200 humans and aliens toward the Centauri colonies. She checked her uniform in the window's reflection. Every button perfect, every badge in place. Her mother had taught her that appearance mattered, especially when others looked for reasons to doubt you. As one of the few human captains on a major space route, He-jin knew this lesson well. "Captain," called First Officer Sun-Mei Park from her station. "Ambassador Harris's shuttle is approaching." He-jin turned from the window. "Thank you, Sun-Mei. Please have Security Chief Lee meet me at the docking bay." The arrival of Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council wasn't a normal part of their passenger route. But these weren't normal times. The Council was about to vote on human expansion rights, and many older alien races weren't happy about Earth's growing influence. Security Chief Ta-Won Lee was already waiting when He-jin reached the docking bay. He stood straight and alert, his dark uniform crisp. "All security measures are in place, Captain," he reported. "Though I still think the ambassador should have brought her own security team. The Council might see that as a sign of distrust," He-jin explained. "Dr. Harris believes traveling as a regular passenger will help our cause." The shuttle docked smoothly. When the doors opened, Ambassador Kamala Harris stepped out, carrying only a small travel bag. She wore a simple blue suit, her gray hair neatly styled. She could have passed for any other passenger, except for the quiet confidence in her walk. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Dawn, Ambassador," He-jin said, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Captain Kim." The ambassador smiled warmly. "I hope my late booking didn't cause too much trouble." "Not at all. We're honored to have you." He-jin gestured to Ta-Won. "This is our security chief, Ta-Won Lee. He'll make sure your journey is comfortable and safe." As they walked to the passenger deck, He-jin noticed several alien passengers watching them. Most seemed merely curious, but a few Proxinians, tall, silver-skinned humanoids, were whispering among themselves. He-jin made a mental note to keep an eye on them. The ship's passenger areas were a model of luxury space travel. Wide corridors with soft lighting led to comfortable cabins. The dining hall featured real wood panels and crystal light fixtures. Everything was designed to make the 3-day journey to Centauri as pleasant as possible. He-jin showed the ambassador to her cabin personally. "Please let us know if you need anything. The dining hall serves meals at standard hours, but we can also bring food to your cabin." "The dining hall will be fine," Harris said. "I didn't come here to hide." After leaving the ambassador to settle in, He-jin headed back to the bridge. She found Sun-Mei looking troubled at her station. "What's wrong?" He-jin asked. "Maybe nothing," Sun-Mei said. "But 3 of our Proximian crew members called in sick today. Their replacements came aboard with the last supply shuttle." He-jin frowned. Proximians rarely got sick, and the timing seemed too convenient. "Have Medical Officer Kang check on them." Quietly. The first few hours of the journey passed smoothly. He-jin kept busy with routine ship operations, but part of her mind stayed focused on the ambassador's safety. When dinner time approached, she decided to visit the dining hall herself. The large room was half full when she arrived. Ambassador Harris sat at a corner table, eating and reading from a datapad. A Proximian flight attendant named Vextra was serving drinks nearby. He-jin watched as Vextra approached the ambassador's table. Something about the flight attendant's movement caught her attention, a slight stiffness that seemed out of place. "Your meal, Ambassador," Vextra said, placing a covered plate on the table. Her voice was perfectly polite, but He-jin noticed she didn't offer the customary drink selection. The ambassador thanked her and lifted the cover. The food looked normal, standard protein cubes and vegetable paste, arranged carefully on the plate. But He-jin's instincts were screaming that something was wrong. She walked over to the table. "Ambassador, would you mind if I joined you?" "Please do, Captain." Jin sat down just as the ambassador was about to take her first bite. In one smooth motion, Jin pretended to bump the table, knocking over a water glass. The water splashed across the food. "I'm so sorry," Jin said quickly. "Please, let me get you a fresh meal." Before anyone could object, she picked up the plate and walked briskly toward the kitchen. On the way, she pressed a small button on her uniform collar, activating the ship's quantum recorders. Every movement, every word would now be documented. In the kitchen, she found Medical Officer Ji-Hoo Kang. "Ji-Hoo, I need you to analyze this food." Immediately and quietly. Ji-Hoo's eyes widened slightly, but he just nodded and took the plate to his medical scanner. After a few moments, his face turned serious. "Captain, this food contains traces of proximian bile salt. It's harmless to proximians but causes severe illness in humans." Jin felt cold anger in her stomach, but kept her face calm. This wasn't just poor service or rudeness. This was a deliberate attack on Earth's ambassador. But why? And why do it in such an obvious way? She returned to the dining hall, where Vextra was already serving the ambassador a new meal. Jin noticed the flight attendant's hands were perfectly steady, too steady, like someone trying very hard to appear normal. "Ambassador," Jin said pleasantly, "would you like to join me for dinner in the captain's dining room? I'd love to hear more about your work with the council." Harris looked at her carefully, then smiled. "I'd be honored, Captain." As they left the dining hall, Jin sent a silent message to Security Chief Lee. "Begin Protocol 3. Full surveillance, no obvious changes. Something bigger is happening here." She didn't know exactly what was going on, but she knew this. Someone had just tried to stop the ambassador from reaching the council vote. They had chosen the wrong ship to try it on. Jin glanced at the ambassador as they walked. Harris showed no sign of worry, chatting easily about council politics. She probably dealt with discrimination all the time. Jin realized, well, this time would be different. This time, humanity would show the galaxy a new way to handle prejudice. The real question was, how far would the Proximians go to stop the ambassador? And more importantly, how could Jin protect her passengers while gathering the evidence they needed? As they entered the captain's dining room, Jin's mind was already forming a plan. The Proximians might have started this game, but she intended to finish it, not with violence, but with something far more powerful. The quantum recorders hummed silently, capturing every detail. The next move would be crucial, and Jin Kim intended to make it count. First Officer Sun Mei Park walked quickly through the quiet corridors of the Stellar Dawn. It was early in the ship's night cycle, and most passengers were asleep. Her footsteps echoed softly on the metal floor as she headed to the captain's private office. Captain Jin Kim was waiting for her, along with Security Chief Ta-Won Lee and Medical Officer Ji-Hoo Kang. They all looked serious. "What did you find?" Jin asked. Sun Mei placed a data pad on the desk. The 3 sick Proximian crew members never went to the medical bay. According to the ship's cameras, they left on the supply shuttle. The new crew members who replaced them. Their papers look real, but they're too real. Not a single mistake or wrinkle. Someone spent a lot of time making perfect papers. Ji-Hoo stepped forward. "I checked the food storage areas. 6 more meals were prepared with Proximian bile salt. They're marked for the ambassador's cabin." Jin nodded slowly. So they planned to make her sick slowly over several days. By the time we reached Centauri, she would be too ill to attend the council vote. "Should we arrest them?" Ta-Won asked. His hand rested near his stun weapon. "Not yet," Jin said. "If we move too fast, we might miss something bigger." "Sun Mei, what about the quantum recordings from the dining hall?" Sun Mei touched the data pad, and a hologram appeared above the desk. It showed Vextra, the flight attendant, talking to 2 other Proximians in a storage room. The sound was clear. "The human ambassador must not reach the council," one Proximian was saying. Our leaders have worked too hard to keep Earth contained. If they get more expansion rights, they'll spread through the galaxy like a disease. What if she suspects something? Vextra asked. Then we move to Plan 2. The escape pods on Deck 3 have been prepared. If needed, we can force an evacuation. In the confusion, accidents happen. He-Jin turned off the hologram. The room was quiet for a moment. They're willing to risk all their passengers just to stop the ambassador. Ji-Hoo asked, shocked. They're desperate, Sun Mai said. Earth's population is growing. We're building ships faster than any young species in history. Some of the older races are scared of us. He-Jin stood up and walked to her office window. The stars streaked by in long lines of light. She remembered her first day as captain, how proud she had felt. Now she had to protect not just her ship, but maybe humanity's future too. Here's what we'll do, she said, turning back to her crew. Sun Mai, send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them everything we know. Ji-Hoo, check all the escape pods on Deck 3. I want to know exactly what they did to them. Ta-1, put your best security officers near the ambassador's cabin, but tell them to act casual, like they're just passing by. What about the Proximian agents? Ta-1 asked. We watch them. We record everything. And we get ready for their next move. He-Jin smiled slightly. They think humans are predictable. They expect us to either ignore their insults or react with violence. We're going to surprise them. The next morning, Ambassador Harris sat in the main lounge, drinking tea and talking with other passengers. She looked completely calm, even though she now knew about the threat. He-Jin had told her everything. You're taking a big risk, letting their plan continue, Harris had said. Yes, He-Jin had answered. But you taught us that sometimes the best way to fight prejudice is to let everyone see it clearly. Now He-Jin watched from across the lounge as Vextra approached the ambassador again. The flight attendant's movements were still too perfect, too controlled. Would you like something to eat, Ambassador? Vextra asked politely. No, thank you, Harris said with a warm smile. I'm enjoying my tea. He-Jin saw the tiny flash of frustration in Vextra's eyes. Their plan wasn't working. Soon, they would try something else. Ji-Hoo's voice came quietly through He-Jin's earpiece. Captain, I checked the escape pods. They modified the guidance systems. In an emergency launch, 3 pods would crash into each other. He-Jin felt sick. Those pods could hold 30 people each. The Proximians were willing to kill innocent passengers just to stop one human from voting. She pressed her collar communicator. All department heads, meet in my office in 10 minutes. It's time for Phase 2. In her office, He-Jin looked at her crew. These were the people she trusted most in the galaxy. The Proximians will make their move soon, she said. They'll probably wait until we're at the halfway point, where it's hardest to get help. We need to be ready. Sun Mai raised her hand. Earth Command sent a response. They're sending ships, but they won't reach us in time. We don't need them to, He-Jin said. We just need to keep everyone safe and gather evidence. The Proximians don't know about our quantum recorders. Every word they say, every move they make, it's all being saved. But why? Ji-Hoo asked. Why do all this just to stop one vote? Communications Officer Yoon Cho spoke up from her station. She had been quiet until now. Because it's not just about the vote. It's about showing everyone that humans can be pushed around, that we'll either let it happen or fight back like animals. Exactly, He-Jin said. But we're going to show them something different, something they've never seen before. She looked at each crew member. I need you all to be perfect at your jobs. No mistakes. No anger. No fear. Can you do that? They all nodded. They understood what was at stake. Just then, the ship's computer beeped. Captain, it said, we're approaching the halfway point of our journey. He-Jin straightened her uniform. Remember, everyone, we're not just defending our ship now. We're showing the galaxy what humanity really is." As her crew left to take their positions, He-Jin looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Proximians' leaders were waiting to hear that their plan had worked, that the troublesome humans had been put in their place. They were about to learn a very different lesson. The quantum recorders hummed silently, gathering evidence with every second. He-Jin smiled. Sometimes the best way to fight wasn't with weapons or angry words. Sometimes the best way to fight was to be so perfectly, undeniably right that your enemies couldn't hide from their own wrong. The Proximians thought they were hunting. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap made not of steel and guns, but of truth and law. And those, He-Jin knew, were the strongest weapons of all. The Stellar Dawn's engines hummed steadily as the ship reached the halfway point of its journey. In the security office, Taiwan Lee watched 20 video screens at once. Each screen showed a different part of the ship. He saw passengers sleeping in their cabins, others reading in the lounge, and crew members doing their jobs. Then he noticed something strange. 3 Proximian crew members were walking toward the engine room. They weren't engineers. They had no reason to go there. Taiwan pressed his communicator. "Captain, they're making their move." In her cabin, Captain He-Jin Kim was already dressed and ready. She had expected this. "Where's the ambassador?" "Safe in the protected guest quarters. Security Team 1 is with her." "Good. Start recording on all channels." "Sun Mai, are you ready?" First Officer Sun Mi Park's voice came through clearly. "Yes, Captain. All emergency systems are under my direct control. They can't start an evacuation without my code." He-Jin walked quickly to the bridge. The ship felt different at night, quieter but somehow more alive. As she walked, she thought about all the sleeping passengers. They trusted her to keep them safe. She wouldn't let them down. When she reached the bridge, she found Yuna Cho at her communication station. The young officer was working quickly, her fingers flying over the controls. "All channels are open," Yuna reported. "Every Galactic Council communication frequency is ready. One button, and the whole galaxy will see what happens here." He-Jin nodded. "Remember, wait for my signal." The captain sat in her command chair and watched her screens. In the engine room, the 3 Proximians were trying to access the main computer. They didn't know that Jihu had changed all the codes an hour ago. "Warning," the ship's computer announced suddenly. "Unauthorized access attempt in engine room sector 4. This was what He-Jin had been waiting for. She pressed her communicator. "Security Team 2, please escort our uninvited guests from the engine room." But the Proximians weren't done. On the security screens, He-Jin saw Vextra and 2 others running toward the bridge. They carried small weapons, illegal on passenger ships. "Captain," Ta-Won's voice was tense. "They've blocked the corridor to the bridge. We can't reach you." "That's all right," He-Jin said calmly. "Everything is going exactly as planned." The bridge doors opened. Vextra and her team burst in, pointing their weapons at He-Jin and Yune. "Don't move," Vextra ordered. "Captain Kim, you will order an emergency evacuation. Now." He-Jin turned her chair slowly to face them. "Why?" "So you can crash the escape pods. Kill innocent passengers just to stop one human from voting." Vextra's silver skin paled slightly. "How did you?" "We know everything," He-Jin said. "About the poisoned food, about your fake crew members, about your plans to make it look like an accident. We have proof of all of it." "Then you know why this has to happen," Vextra said. Her voice shook slightly. "Humans are spreading too fast, taking too much space. You don't understand your place in the galaxy. Our place." He-Jin stood up slowly, looking straight at Vextra. "Let me tell you about our place. Humans have been in space for less than 200 years. In that time, we've built cities on Mars, colonies on Europa, and ships that can cross the galaxy. We did it all while older races tried to stop us, tried to keep us small and quiet." She took one step forward. Vextra's weapon shook slightly. But we never stayed quiet, Heijin continued. Not because we're violent, not because we're aggressive, but because we believe every species deserves a chance to grow, to explore, to become more than they are. Even species that fear us, even species that hate us. Pretty words, Vextra said. But words won't stop us. Order the evacuation, or we'll do it ourselves. Heijin smiled. You really should have checked the communication channels before you came in here. Vextra's eyes widened. She looked at the communication station, where all the lights were blinking green. Every word they had said had been broadcast across the galaxy. Right now, Heijin said, every Galactic Council member is watching this. They're seeing how Proximian agents tried to poison an ambassador, how they planned to kill innocent passengers, and how humans responded, not with violence, but with justice. Suddenly, the bridge doors opened again. Security Chief Ta Wan stood there with his team, weapons ready. Behind them was Ambassador Harris, looking calm and determined. It's over, Heijin said softly. Your leaders can't hide from this. The whole galaxy knows what happened here. Vextra looked around wildly. Her hands were shaking now. You tricked us, she whispered. No, Heijin said. We just showed everyone the truth. The truth about your prejudice, and the truth about humanity. We're not animals to be caged. We're not children to be controlled. We're people who deserve our place among the stars. She looked at Tadwan. Take their weapons. Put them in secured quarters. Make sure they're comfortable and safe. We'll hand them over to galactic authorities when we reach Centauri. As the security team led the Proximians away, Ambassador Harris walked up to Heijin. That was quite a speech, Captain. I meant every word, Heijin said. For too long, we've let other species think they could push us around. Either we would submit, or we would fight back violently. Today we showed them a third way. The ambassador smiled. Yes, we did. And thanks to Officer Cho's broadcast, the council vote isn't even necessary anymore. No one can deny our right to expand after seeing this. Heijin looked around her bridge. Yuna was still at her station, making sure every moment had been recorded. Sunmai was checking the ship's systems, making sure nothing had been damaged. Everyone had done their jobs perfectly. Captain, Ta Wan called from the door. The passengers are starting to wake up. They want to know what happened. Tell them the truth, Heijin said. Tell them that tonight, humanity proved something important. We proved that the strongest weapon isn't a gun or a bomb. It's the courage to stand up for what's right, and the wisdom to do it the right way. She looked out at the stars streaking past her ship. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. Old prejudices were being challenged. New possibilities were opening up. And it all started here, on the Stellar Dawn, where a group of humans chose to fight not with fists or weapons, but with truth and dignity. They had changed everything, not by being the strongest or the most aggressive, but by being the best version of themselves. 3 days after the incident on the bridge, the Stellar Dawn approached the Centauri space station. Through the ship's windows, passengers could see the giant silver ring of the station spinning slowly against the stars. Several galactic council ships floated nearby, their lights blinking in the darkness. Captain Heijin Kim stood in her dress uniform, looking at her reflection in her cabin window. The last few days had been busy. News of what happened had spread across human space and beyond. The ship had received thousands of messages from Earth, Mars, and every human colony. Someone knocked on her door. It was First Officer Sunmai Park. The council representatives are ready to board, Sunmai said. And you should see this. She held up her data pad, showing news from across the galaxy. The headlines told an amazing story. Proximian leaders were apologizing for the actions of their agents. Other species were calling for new laws against discrimination. And everywhere, people were talking about how the humans on the Stellar Dawn had changed everything. Heijin straightened her uniform one last time. Is the crew ready? Everyone is in position. Sunma answered. Even the passengers want to help. They're all proud to be part of this. In the main docking bay, Hejin found her crew lined up perfectly. Security Chief Ta-won had his team looking sharp and alert. Medical Officer Ji-hoo stood with his medical staff, all in clean white uniforms. Communications Officer Yoon was working with her team to record everything. Ambassador Harris stood with them, looking pleased. "Captain," she said warmly, "are you ready to make history again?" "I thought we already did that," Hejin said with a small smile. Oh, that was just the beginning. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. A group of alien representatives walked in. Hejin recognized all the major species: tall Proximians, green-skinned Verdani, floating Cloudborn, and others. Leading them was Council President Nax, a wise old Verdani known for his fairness. "Captain Kim," President Nax said in his deep voice, "your actions have caused quite a stir in the council. I hope we haven't created too much trouble," Hejin said politely. Nax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Trouble? Captain, you have done something no young species has ever done before. You faced discrimination and prejudice, not with anger or violence, but with wisdom and dignity. You showed the galaxy a better way." He turned to face everyone in the docking bay. "The Council has already voted. Earth's expansion rights are approved. But more than that, we are creating new laws based on what happened here. The Stellar Dawn Accords will protect all species, young and old, from the kind of prejudice you exposed." Hejin felt her heart beat faster, but kept her face calm. "We're honored, Mr. President, but we were just doing our jobs." "That's exactly the point," Ambassador Harris said. "You showed that humans don't need special treatment. We just need a fair chance, and when we get that chance, we can amaze everyone." President Nax nodded, which is why the Council has another announcement. "Captain Kim, we are creating a new position, Human Representative to the Galactic Transportation Authority. We want you to help make sure all species are treated fairly on all space routes." Hejin looked at her crew. She saw pride in their faces, but also something more important: hope. They had done more than save their ship. They had opened new doors for humanity. "I would be honored," she said. "But first, I need to deliver my passengers safely to Centauri." "Of course," Nax said. "A captain's first duty is to her ship and her people. You've proven that very well." Later, as the council members toured the ship, Hejin stood with her senior crew in the observation lounge. Through the windows, they could see Earth ships arriving to escort them the rest of the way. "What happens to the Proximian agents?" Ta-won asked. "They'll face trial," Sunma answered. "But thanks to our quantum recordings, it will be a fair trial. No more secrets, no more hidden prejudice." Jehu looked thoughtful. "Do you think things will really change? Can laws stop people from hating?" "Laws can't change hearts," Hejin said, "but they can change actions. And sometimes, when people are forced to act better, they start to think better too." Yuma smiled. "My cousin on Mars sent a message. She said her children are studying what we did here in school. They're calling it the Stellar Dawn Way, solving problems with brains instead of fists." Hejin looked at her crew, her friends, and felt proud. They had done something important here. Not just for themselves, but for every human who dreamed of the stars, and maybe for every species that ever faced prejudice. The Stellar Dawn floated gracefully toward Centauri Station. Soon, her passengers would disembark, carrying their stories with them. The Proximian agents would face justice. New laws would be written, and humanity would take another step forward among the stars. But for Hejin, the most important thing was simpler. She had kept her promise. To her ship, to her crew, and to herself. She had shown the galaxy that humans could be more than anyone expected. Not by fighting, not by demanding, but by being wise enough to let the truth speak for itself. As she watched the stars with her crew, Hejin thought about all the ships that would follow them. They would fly safer routes now, protected by new laws and new respect. The stellar dawn had lived up to its name. It had brought a new dawn for humanity among the stars. And somewhere out there, other young species were watching and learning. Perhaps they too would choose the stellar dawn way when they faced their own challenges. That, Hujin thought, would be the greatest victory of all.